rear suspension. So this is a video I didn't think I'd ever end up doing because I didn't even know there was a difference here. But yeah, keep in mind I only claim myself to be the 82 expert. I'm not the I'm not the 84 up expert. Yeah. Now every EXP I own, 82 to 84, it has this exact rear suspension. I mean, it's identical between all of them. The only difference between some of them is like the turbo model has red Coney shocks, supposedly stiffer springs. Otherwise, every single EXP of mine is exactly the same. But stripping down this 86 here, find out that the rear suspension differs a little bit. And it's just this here. It's just this one trailing arm, whatever you like to call it, drawbar. And it is unique, at least compared to the early cars. So I'll write down in the description which style can be found on which car. But I can guarantee that all 82 to 84 EXPs have this. All my 81 Escort wagons have this. And then all my 86 to 88 Escorts have this. So I'm not sure if the later EXPs have it. I'm going to assume they don't. Because it sure seems that EXPs are just this. And the only thing they changed from the first gen to the second gen, as far as the shell goes, is just the front radiator support. They just made it the same one as the Escort one. But big whoop there, Anyhow, that's the only difference. You can see that this one is straight, while on these older cars they're offset like this, so they can help clear the rear wheel and tire. But that's not all that's going on here. The big thing is on the leading end, you see there's a pair of nuts on the threaded part of the shaft. Whereas here it's an eyelet. And with this eyelet there is next to zero adjustability. What one could do is install like a cam bolt so that when you turn it, it makes it, it makes the center of the eyelet move left to right. But can you trust something like that when you're going down the road? If that moves a smidge, it's going to move your rear toe. But anyhow, they eventually went to this style, and all you have to do is just loosen one nut, loosen the other, set it to where you like it, and then start tightening up the nuts, and then you're able to adjust the rear toe. So these adjustable trailing arms, tie bars, whatever you like to call them, they go into a pocket here in the car. You can barely see that silver bushing back there, or silver sleeve. Oops. But that silver sleeve back there, wrapped around, molded to it is a rubber bushing, and it kind of Oreo sandwiches the steel of the car. It's actually very much like what goes here. So if you can imagine this exact setup right here is over here-ish instead. One problem with that, the updated style, is because that you're having this over here, and what it's doing is sandwiching a piece of steel body from the car, and there's an adjustable nut on both sides. So that means that the cavity to the left side over here, there has to be a big old opening so you can adjust that nut. Problem is that sucker fills with salt. Everything in there goes to hell fast. Good grief, it rusts bad in front of that. Whereas this, it's a completely open cavity, and it's all behind the car. It doesn't catch anything unless you're driving in reverse through the snow. So these typically don't get too bad. This one's only rusty because the entire rest of the car is rusty. I mean, compared to the rest of the car, this is par. But had this been a normal car that wasn't too bad, yes, this wouldn't be bad at all. It would look like, sadly, the rest of the suspension's pretty rough, but it would be comparable to this hub that's actually in pretty good shape because it's sealed up by a drum, so that helps a lot. Anyhow, so it's not the greatest of things. I mean, as far as adjustability goes, it's great. If you are going to a track, you want this. I do recommend a thicker trailing arm, though. These guys are pretty flimsy. As you can see here, you can't tell from this angle. You can tell from this angle this guy's been bent. It doesn't take much to do that. Because I think it was this wheel that was locked up. Yeah. So this wheel was locked up on the car, so I'm pretty sure when someone tried backing it in somewhere, this caved under pressure. So it's going to do similar things for you out on the track. So I strongly suggest getting something thicker. You can definitely go with some sort of aftermarket. But this other end here, it's the exact same as what's on this EXP here. Now, something you could do is if you have this older style setup, what one could easily do, just spend a little time cutting the ring off of this guy, make it all threaded, and then what you do is make it so that this double nut setup is here instead. So then you can move the two nuts left and right here, and now you can adjust the toe pretty darn good. So that's something to consider too. And you could always replace these trailing arms too. These earlier ones, they bend just as good as those. It's the same diameter of steel, same grade of steel. So these guys do bend. You can see this one's trying to bend a little bit here, mostly because it's so rough, but I'll come up with something. But you could put in, put in an eyelet here with an adjustable shank. And then you don't even really need to do this. I mean, you could if you wanted to or had to. You do something like this, just use an adjustable shank here. Like what a lot of contours have for their control arms, because their rear control arms have a pair of long stilts. The problem is they're so weak from the factory, they're just two real thin freaking pieces of stamped steel. When grandma takes it off to church and then gets groceries that afternoon, she might only do 5 miles per hour, but if she goes into a threshold to one store, she can bend one of those suckers. They're so soft. So a lot of people will switch to something like this, where there's an eyelet on this side, eyelet down here, and then there's an adjustable shank. That's a massive upgrade for those. That would be a good upgrade for these. Otherwise, the suspension is exactly the same. The lower control arm between these is identical. The springs, identical. Spring cups, identical. Actually, with these, with the springs, you can see that the part number is the same. These are the stock springs on this 86, and you can see it says E1EO. So these are just, your average 1981 springs. Nothing special whatsoever. We go over to these. I'm on the wrong side to view the date code on them. But they do also say E1. It's the same crap. Yeah, so when something's the same, don't jump through hoops. Just take it for what it is. It's the same. The knuckle, as far as I can tell, is the same. Supposedly, the knuckle did change at some point, because supposedly there was a spindle change, and we know that because the rear wheel bearings took a change. 84, something like that, 85. It was between facelifts. So it was really odd. It was between different generations of everything, because we all know that there was the facelift in '86. That's what changed the early Escorts with the chrome grille to the smooth face grille. So that happened in '86. But there was a major front suspension change and transmission change and axle change, everything else up front. That changed in '84. So this rear wheel bearing fiasco happened like '85 or something. Between those years makes everything a little bit complicated. So I gotta look into that more, because once again, I'm the '82 expert. The '84 stuff, '84 plus, is a little bit beyond me right now. But we're slowly getting there. This is one of the steps. Come in terms of the different suspensions, among other things. But the shocks are the same between all these. 81 to 90, they all take the same exact rear shocks. But these guys, the drums are different. We will have a video up on those sometime soon, as these here are the 7-inch drums, and what's on every EXP ever are the 8-inch drums. So do expect a video on that. And yeah, sadly, I don't have all that much time this year, so we will get there when we get there. Oh, these actually appear to be 8-inch drums. Yes, they are. Yeah, these are the 8-inch drums. I was looking, like, they look identical between these and what's on the EXP. But I do have 7s somewhere, so there will be a comparison between 7s and 8s. And that'll be interesting, because the big difference between them is the 7. With the 7s, the drum is the hub, but on the 8s, the drum comes off the hub like so. Like it would on pretty much any modern car. The contours are like that, Cougars, Focuses, etc., etc., etc. Anyhow, that's all I had to share with you guys, because there's not much for differences. If I find out something else is different, say later on in the Escort range, I'll share that. Also, whatever years I find wheel bearing discrepancies, I'll put those in the description. And when I narrow down which cars had these versus which cars had those, I'll also put that in the description, so that you guys have access to everything. But for now, that's all I got, and we'll catch you later.